Okay, this is the second lesson on world cities, and we're looking today at the emergence of world cities. And what we need to learn is why world cities have become so dominant. So by the end of the little lesson or lecture, whatever you like to call it, I want you to be able to explain what a world city is and why they've become so powerful. Some of the key words we're going to explore are obviously world cities, dominance, and global systems. Okay, these are the syllabus outcomes we're still looking at, the same as lesson 1. We're still looking at the reasons and trying to explain the change in nature, spatial patterns and interactions of urban places, and we're learning about the nature, character and spatial distribution of world cities. So let's have a look at what a world city is. This definition comes from the syllabus, and this is one that you really need to learn and know off by heart. So a world city is a large city that has importance to the operation of global systems of finance, trade, politics, communication, aid, tourism and entertainment. When you look at a city, we know that there's a difference in its importance depending on what type of features it has. If we look at Sydney and we look at finance, trade, politics, Sydney is the centre of politics for New South Wales. It's the centre of finance and trade, certainly New South Wales, and the vast majority of Australia. The headquarters of Australia's global financial markets are there. Communications, again, you know, high-speed broadband connections. And also it's one of the most visited places, certainly in Australia, if not the world, and that's to do with the airport, tourism locations and destinations like the Opera House, Harbour Bridge, and then of course entertainment, not only for theatre companies that tour there regularly, but also the Olympics. You know, Sydney's held the Olympics twice. That's pretty big, and that's why Sydney is a world city. Now, these world cities have emerged for a number of reasons, and as a result we've created a hierarchy. So as I mentioned in the last slide, Sydney is a world city, but it's not as important as, say, Hong Kong. Hong Kong isn't as important as a world city as London. London, New York, Tokyo and Paris, they dominate global world cities. Now, these world cities have emerged basically because of change in industry. We've gone from heavy industry, so that's like factories, making stuff there and then in these big cities, to cities that make more high technology. They actually don't make anything. It's all about technology and services. We've also had the rise in communication technology. This has allowed people to connect with one each other really, really quickly and cheaply. We've also had the rise of transnational corporations. As we know that the headquarters of these TNCs are located in these big cities. Everything that the company needs to be made is made in developing countries. Obviously we've had the improvement in technology, and what I mean by that is different from communication technology. We're talking about transport technology. We can fly from London to Sydney in a day. We can ship many goods from port to port across the world in a matter of months. Before that used to be years. Also, we've had a big increase in the number of people working overseas. So it's common when we go up to Sydney, we ask people where are they from, and the vast majority of them will say overseas, and that's because they've been sent by overseas companies to go and work in Sydney to operate their office based there. And of course, the global financial markets. We're talking about stocks and shares. These are 24-hour markets that operate across the globe. They do not shut down. Obviously, the major ones are in New York, London, and Tokyo. Another reason and another effect is that people nowadays are connected globally. So someone in Sydney, they might feel they might have more in common with someone in New York rather than someone on the Central Coast. Why is that? Because they speak to these people every day. And also it's because their job involves to be in a city communicating with world cities. That last point I've got, 1927, the cost of a 3-minute telephone call was $100. That's about $1.50 per minute. This means that communication spread across countries really quickly. Another effect, and why we've had this emergence, is globalization. Globalization has been the spread of ideas and politics and trade ideas across the world. And what we've had these world cities that dominate the world, and they are in developed countries, and mega cities, which are cities of a population over 10 million, developing countries. As a result, we've had this marginalisation, whereas, as I said at the first slide, world cities like Sydney are dependent on other world cities. So Sydney is probably dependent on Hong Kong, Hong Kong's dependent on London. Okay, so that's the form of marginalisation. Two issues that have been created. We've seen societies being split between rich and poor, even in developed countries, where we have this big wage gap between the top earners and the bottom earners. That's really become quite a problem in the last few years, particularly in Australia. And then we've got a development of new financial districts. If we look at Sydney, there's not just a CBD in central Sydney, but we've got North Sydney in Chatswood, and then Bondi Junction as well. So these are two effects of these emerging world cities. Okay, that's the end of the lecture. Again, make sure you use your Cornell notes. Anything that you've noticed, any questions, bring to class. Thanks.